politically and reputationally to the country. And to compound that, he decided to hold himself up in the White House and focus almost solely, no travel, no foreign travel, no campaigning, on the hostage crisis, which was admirable at one level, but it focused even more attention on the hostages. Ted Koppel's Nightline program came out of this. Walter Cronkite, after every newscast, CBS, day 105 of the hostage crisis, day 210 of the hostage crisis, day 400 of the hostage crisis. It was incredibly debilitating. And then the crucial blow, and the flames from Desert One really engulfed the administration, was the aborted rescue mission. It's wrong to say it would have succeeded had we had more helicopters. Carter added 2 additional helicopters to what the military wanted. I think it was too complex. There was no coordination between the 4 services. We didn't have a joint command then as we do now. They hadn't practiced together. And in fact, in a later interview, Colonel Beckwith, who led the mission and who was from Sumter County, Georgia, where Carter had grown up, said, you know, I'm from the South. When Bear Bryant practices the Alabama football team, he makes sure the lineman, the quarterback, and everybody else practice and practice and practice, and that did not happen. There was huge jealousy, and the collisions that occurred on Desert One were a catastrophe and became an unfortunate metaphor that still remains in people's minds. And yet there were 2, even here, positive things. The hostages did come back unharmed, every single one. And, in addition, not known until the publication of this book, because we didn't want to harm any lives, through a very creative interpretation, and I use the term diplomatically when I say creative, of our visa laws, we prevented all the Iranian Jewish students who were in the country who otherwise would have been expelled after the hostage crisis to stay, and we got 50,000 Iranian Jews, Baha'is, and Christians out and into this country under a special way. We basically buried their applications. And after we lost the election, the Reagan administration began to process them and denying many of them. And I called Elliot Abrams at the NSC under Reagan, and I said, Elliot, you have to understand what we did secretly. He followed it. All 50,000 came in, and they and their families live throughout the United States today, many in Los Angeles. In the post-election period, we got swamped. We absolutely won 6 states in the District of Columbia. And yet Carter was not one to brood over failure. The day after the election, he got all of us together and he said, we have 2.5 months, let's get more done. So the Alaska Lands Bill was done as a lame duck president. The Superfund Chemical Cleanup Bill was done as a lame duck president. The conclusion of the hostage crisis was done as a lame duck president. And in one quite remarkable event, after Senator Kennedy refused to reconcile with Carter during and after the convention, Ted Kennedy called me up after the election and said, Stu, there's a vacancy on the First Circuit Court of Appeals. I'd like the president to appoint Steve Breyer, who was my aide, and you worked with him on airline deregulation, one of your signal accomplishments. I'd like the president to appoint him. And I said, Senator, there are 2 insurmountable hurdles. He said, what are those? I said, well, the first is there's no love lost between Carter and yourself. He thinks you'd help defeat him. And he said, that's why I'm calling you and not him. And he said, what's the second? I said, the second is we lost the Senate. Strom Thurmond's going to be the new chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Why would he want a lifetime Democrat to be appointed? You take care of Carter, he said, I'll take care of Thurmond. So I went into the Oval Office, had my legal bid, 10 reasons. I said, forget who asked about it. You know Steve Breyer, you know he's from Harvard Law School, you know professor, you know what he did for airline deregulation. It'd be a tribute to this administration appointed. And he said, I'll do it. I called Ted and I said, I've done my end, how about you? He said, I've got Thurmond all set. He's willing to do it. He likes Steve. This could never happen in today's polarized environment. Steve Breyer will tell you he would not be on the U.S. Supreme Court today were it not for